We got a weird fight at lightweight between, it used to be handsome Matt Wiman. They don't use the nickname anymore. He shaved his beard and head. Matt Wiman is taking on the UFC newcomer, Jordan Leavitt, the Monkey King. And Matt, for Jordan Leavitt, a guy coming in from Syndicate MMA, and I have nothing but good things to say about Syndicate MMA. You go on Jordan Leavitt's Instagram, you go to Facebook, Twitter, whatever. You go on the socials, Instagram. A lot of pictures with Serena DeJesus and Roxanne Modafferi. But we've seen a lot of success outside of just those two. We've seen a lot of success out of two fighters primarily in the last couple of weeks. Sean Strickland and Sasha Palatnikov. So Jordan Leavitt kind of looking to follow in the footsteps of some of his teammates recently. John Wood and the crew have really been putting on a great show this past fall into this winter. For Matt Wiman, Matt, back in 2012-2013, Matt Wiman was a force to be reckoned with in the lightweight division until our boy, Halifax, Nova Scotia's own TJ Grant, ran through him like a buzzsaw. It was UFC on Fox 6, finished him on the prelims, and then Matt Wiman had a fight against, I love doing this, BKFC's own Isaac Valley Flag, beat him, and then took almost 5 years off. And it's a bit of a head scratcher. He really hasn't come out and said a whole lot about why he took the time off. There was some injury talks. I know if you go on Tapology, he had a fight that was booked in like 2015, fell out, and it says that it was a back injury for Matt Wiman, but he kind of went away. And then all of a sudden he came back, and he took a fight against Luis Pena. Didn't look good in the fight against Luis Pena. So what did they do? They put him out there against another hot prospect in Joe Selecki. What happened? He didn't look good against Joe Selecki. So for Matt Wiman at 37 years old, he's 16-9. The biggest question mark on this card. But is he? I mean, that's the trouble. The trouble with fighters like this is, well, do I bother even talking about the start of their career that was, 8-9 years ago when Matt Wiman was really in his prime? Or do I start talking about those last two fights where he looked like he's missed not even a step. He's missed 3 or 4 steps against, now, albeit against good guys like young up-and-comers. Say what you will about Luis Pena. He has the tools. They're there. He just has to bring them together. And for Joe Selecki, a guy that I wish we get to see a little bit more of because he is a very hot prospect. So Matt Wiman taking on another really good prospect in Jordan Leavitt, a guy that's undefeated so far, a guy that has plenty of finishes on his record, 5 submissions overall. Jordan Leavitt really putting things together. 4-0 as an amateur as well. So Leavitt really riding high. Also, cool as ice picture on Tapology. Mr. Photogenic, mid-fight, grabbing the armbar, looking dead in the camera. Like, having fun.
It's pretty great.
Listen, Jordan Leavitt has more than a good shot in this fight, but what can you tell me about Matt Wiman?
Okay, it is really weird when we do talk about fighters who have had 2 very distinct parts of their career. And I always think of a Georges St-Pierre, for instance. He took all these years off, and when he did come back, we saw a new and improved version because you knew that he used all the time off. The Korean Zombie is another great example. I know he lost to Brian Ortega, but he had done his mandatory military service, and you could tell that, okay, yes, he was working while he was over there, but he was training. He was getting ready for his comeback, and he was getting better. Matt Wiman, when he made his return, you knew Matt Wiman in his first iteration. He had decent volume striking, and if the fight went to the mat, he was phenomenal. He had really good leg locks, really good grappling. The sport has kind of moved past a lot of what Matt Wiman was really good at, and the Luis Pena fight really proves it. Now, I'm a lot higher on Luis Pena than I know a lot of other people are. I do think that his skill set is a very advanced one. I just don't think he always fights up to his potential, but what he did to Matt Wiman should be illegal. He just beat the brakes off him, whether it be on the feet, whether it be on the mat. And then the grappling is where you expect Matt Wiman to have an advantage, if he did have any. Luis Pena, there was no issue at all in that fight. He was just able to float on top of Wiman, get a lot of ground and pound damage off. And every time Wiman did go for leg attacks, and I might as well just say this now, Trevor Whitman, they don't have him enough on the broadcast. They should have to bring him on like once a round, I think, if not twice. He had brought up a really good point in that fight. The leg locks and the leg attacks and the transitions that Matt Wiman was going for in the Luis Pena fight, they were very advanced for 2013. But the issue is, a lot of people now, the sport just moves so fast. Same thing in basketball. In 5 years, things just keep on moving, and you do get left behind. And with Matt Wiman, it's not like when he fought Luis Pena and he came back, he had like Danaher Death Squad level leg locks. No, his game was still very much the same, and we've just kind of seen the evolution of the sport. Now, it is unfortunate, and this is a fight where Matt Wiman could have success because Jordan Leavitt's going to go out there and grapple with him. I really doubt he's going to stand on the outside and kind of expose some of the, striking weaknesses that Matt Wiman has. And that's the other part with Matt Wiman. It's very strange. a lot of guys who do have really good jiu-jitsu, who are comfortable off their back, throw a lot of kicks. They're just very comfortable with it because they're not afraid of being taken down. Matt Wiman doesn't throw a ton of kicks. He throws a little short leg kick to the inside with his left leg. His striking's okay, but he doesn't accentuate his reach enough. He's not a guy like Neil Magny who will pop that jab out, pop that jab out. Matt Wiman will kind of wait for the fight to come to him, and that does concern me at this stage in his career. And against a guy like Jordan Leavitt, it kind of feels like they're doing to Matt Wiman what they tried to do to Francis Ngannou after he lost to Stipe. So he loses to Stipe, loses to Derek Lewis, and the UFC goes, well, who's his worst matchup? Curtis Blades, he's a wrestler. We'll make him fight him. For Matt Wiman, you've lost to a guy who can do a little bit of everything. You lost to Selecki, another guy who can do a little bit of everything. But again, you kind of get dominated in the grappling of those fights. Now you're fighting Jordan Leavitt, who really is a grappling specialist. So there's just so many question marks around Matt Wiman. And maybe he did need 2 performances to kind of shake some of that rust off. Maybe this is the fight where he is going to show it's one of those y'all must have forgot, where we do have kind of the veteran showing the young gun, kind of putting him in his place. I just don't really see it. I don't see him having a big advantage on the feet. If the fight does go to the mat, Jordan Leavitt is an absolute wizard. I know I've talked a lot about Matt Wiman, but the things he can get done on the mat are serious.
So, Matt, let's talk about Jordan Leavitt's submissions. So, if you look at it, he had the win on Dana White's Contender Series week 1 this past summer, earning the contract, getting the win over Luke Flores, round 1 arm triangle.
Beautiful submission.
Before that, Levon Lewis, he has a second-round anaconda choke with LFA. Before that, Izzy Williams' decision. Before that, Johnny Walker. No, not that Johnny Walker. First-round heel hook in 17 seconds. Do you know how adept you have to be to get a heel hook in 17 seconds? That's Ryan Hall type stuff right there. Ray Ostrander gets a first-round arm triangle choke. Before that, a decision. And in his debut, he has a submission win. So overall, Jordan Leavitt really firing on all cylinders. And he's another one of those fighters, we talk about it. When you have a really good grappling specialist early on in their career to be training at Syndicate, there's so many good fighters, so many good coaches to round out Jordan Leavitt's game that, yes, maybe Jordan Leavitt, and we got to put this like cards on the table. Some people that they've signed from Dana White's Contender Series now, they might not be the most UFC ready. I mean, Jordan Leavitt, credit where credit's due. Good fighter, but he's 7-0. It is early. What do you do after you beat Matt Wiman? That's a big question. Who do you put Jordan Leavitt up against at lightweight? This is the most stacked division. Does Jordan Leavitt go on and win 4, 5, 6 fights in a row and then he's fighting for the title tomorrow? No, it's such a stacked division. So it is a good litmus test to see, well, where's Jordan Leavitt at? And it's a good test as to, well, Matt Wiman, you lose 3 fights in a row since taking almost 5 years off.
37.
Probably time to go out the door. I have a really hard time with this one because, again, Matt Wiman, tale of 2 totally different careers. Jordan Leavitt, really hot prospect, really good grappler. If we have a look at the odds, Matt Wiman opened a plus 225 underdog. He's now a plus 297 average on best fight odds. For Jordan Leavitt, open a minus 305 favorite. He's now minus 389. And if we look over on Topology, the biggest skew in the votes, 647 total votes, 95% going Leavitt, 63% have him to win by submission. I have to say this. Jordan Leavitt right now, at this point in his career, isn't on the same level as Joe Selecki. I would hate for them to match those two up. And again, Luis Pena, hot and cold. He's got the tools. Some nights he's hot, some nights he's not. But overall, Luis Pena is a good fighter as well. So Wiman, it's a bit of a step down. But for Jordan Leavitt, it definitely is a winnable fight here.
Oh, 100%. Now, great point, by the way, because I do agree. Jordan Leavitt is a little bit green to be in the UFC. I would agree with that. But this fight stylistically just kind of plays into his strengths. You know Matt Wiman, the takedown defense isn't phenomenal because, again, he is quite comfortable off of his back. But with a fighter like Jordan Leavitt, do you really want to test your grappling against a guy who 5 of his 7 wins are by submission? And even in the fights where they've gone to decision, he's so dominant, especially from the top position in his control, that I really don't see a lot of opportunities for Matt Wiman to create that separation, either get the fight back up to his feet or go for a submission of his own. So I do see this pretty cut and dry for Jordan Leavitt.
Matt, both of us going with Jordan Leavitt in this one. Really looking forward to this card. There's a lot of under-the-radar fights. Movsar Evolev taking on a really tough out Nate Landwehr. There's all sorts of good ones littered through this card, so make sure you check out the playlist and keep it locked in with Fight Night picks. As we always say, Matt, let's get into it.